Let's talk about the transfer window and what Arsenal got up to. So, incomings. Let's start with David Raya. Of course, we were always going to make the deal permanent. If you didn't know, he was on loan last season with an option. I don't think it was mandatory. I'm pretty certain it was an option to buy for the new season, and that was 31.9 million euros. It was always going to happen, and I'm pretty sure the reason we did it that way is because of not just us, but also Brentford and their FFP regulation rules. They wanted to make sure they were within FFP. And of course, we've activated the permanent transfer of Raya at the very start of this season. He was our first confirmed deal, but it wasn't really that exciting. We all knew it was going to happen, and he was already at the club. But it is a fantastic move, and already this season, it's paying off. He's had some incredible performances, made some huge saves, particularly at Villa, and for 31, let's round it up, for 32 million euros or whatever that is in pounds, 27, 28 million, something like that, he has to go down as a bargain, realistically. I mean, if you want a keeper of his quality, you are going to pay 50 million plus, I would argue, maybe even more. So Raya was the first one in. We'll talk about Ramsdale later when we go on to outgoings. We're focusing on incomings, but Raya, fantastic bit of business. I mean, I can give each rating out of 10 if you want, and this is easily an 8, 9 out of 10. Of course, no signing is perfect. We're not going to get a 10 unless we got Mbappe on a free and he decided to take 10 grand a week on the wage bill. Anyway, fantastic signing by the club, and I was so glad that was part of the deal last year. Imagine if we only just got him on loan and that was it. They would have demanded so much more. Up next, we, of course, signed the man with aura, Calafiori. This guy, haven't seen much of him in an Arsenal shirt yet, of course. He hasn't started in the Premier League yet, but he did come on. He had a little cameo when we were down to 10 men against Brighton, and I thought he looked really good. And having watched him at the Euros as well, very impressive. And of course, at Bologna last season, a lot of their players had good seasons, but especially him. And, you know, Juventus wanted him. So many clubs wanted him. Apparently, even Real Madrid. So who knows if that's true? All we know is he decided to join Arsenal months ago. Apparently, Arteta was already in contact with his team, agents and stuff like that by the word team. I don't mean he was in touch with Bologna, but soon after Christmas, apparently. So this is something that's been planned, and obviously him having a good Euros helped, but maybe wouldn't have been a deal breaker. Left wing back, left centre back, whatever you want to do. Looks like he can fit in very well, but 45 million euros, it's a considerable amount of money. And I have said this already, and I stick by it. I think he will be our starting left back in the next couple of months. It's going to happen. I think Timber is a really good option there, but ultimately, I think Calafiori will make that position his. He will become undroppable. And I think we saw glimpses of how good he could be yesterday against Brighton. Very, very good player. I would give this a 7 out of 10. It's quite a lot of money for an unproven Premier League player, but do you know what? It could turn out to be an 8, 9 out of 10 if he performs, but it is quite a lot of money. Then, of course, we made a move into midfield, and it might go down as one of the most unlucky starts to an Arsenal career. Actually, no, Timber doing his ACL, but Merino in his first training session after joining for 32 million euros, the same price as Raya, by the way. He's got a fractured shoulder or a bone up in his arm shoulder area. I'm not 100% sure on the details, but at first they thought maybe he'd be out for a couple of weeks, but no, he's going to be out for at least 6 to 8 weeks. How's your luck? But Merino as a signing, very, very exciting. You'll know Arsenal fans and maybe a lot of non-Arsenal fans too, but we've signed young players for a few years now. It's been an absolute effort. I'm sure almost like an unwritten rule, but kind of a written rule that we don't sign anyone above the age of 24, 25, and they have to be the right fit. They've decided to go for someone in their prime. I've talked about Merino. I did a dedicated video if you want to go and watch that a couple of weeks ago or last week. I think he's going to be a fantastic addition to the squad. It's just such a shame, especially with Rice being out of the North London derby after the international break. Merino isn't fit to take his place, But I think Merino will eventually be a starter. I imagine Rice will move into that Partey number 6 role where Rice was so good at West Ham and for England. And I think Merino will go into that left centre mid role where Rice is playing now. And I must say, whilst Rice can do that role, I really don't think it's his best position. He's just such a good football player. He can do both very well. I want him in that number 6 role. And I think Merino will do what maybe Havertz was meant to do. Havertz came in as a midfielder, but has ended up being a number 9. And we'll talk about the number 9 role in a little bit. But after Merino, of course, we got 2 more deals done towards the end of the window. Neto came in. I mean, this picture is just... It's the best picture I could find in terms of quality. Paint me like a French girl, right? I mean, with Ramsdale leaving and having Setford come in, who else? Hein has gone out on loan. It was obvious we needed someone, and Neto is that someone. A player that's played at the very top level, let's be honest. He was at Barcelona not long ago. I remember he was, 85 rated or something stupid like that. A very good goalkeeper in his day. He's gone to not Brighton, he's gone to Bournemouth. They made him captain and performed pretty well. And now he's back up to Raya. And I honestly believe that Neto on loan is a fantastic bit of business. And the Merino signing is probably a 7 out of 10 as well, by the way. But this Neto deal, I'd probably give it a 6 or a 7 again. It's nothing exciting, but in terms of cost, efficiency, and the fact that there is no obligation to buy, he is on a straight loan this season. We're covering his wages, and he's there to play in the cup games. I would argue he will help Raya more than Ramsdale could because of the experience. And Ramsdale can't focus for more than half a game. Remember that in the podcast he did with Ian Wright, I think it was, when he said that he just can't focus for 90 minutes? From that moment on, he killed his Arsenal career. But Neto on loan, just as we did with Sterling. Now this, we have pulled Chelsea's pants down with this deal. So Sterling is on very high wages, and we knew that already. At City, he was one of their best players back in, was it 2019, before COVID? He was having the season of his life. I remember there was a stat. He was up there with Messi, Ronaldo, Lewandowski in terms of goals and assists provided. He was up there. He was one of the best players statistically that season. And of course, he was always going to be on high wages at City. He's then been pushed out a little bit. He's ended up at Chelsea, and it was a bit of a weird one, I thought, at first. I didn't quite understand why he went to Chelsea, but he did okay. And of course, towards the end of his spell at Chelsea, it has all blown up. And Maresca's come in and said, well, you're not playing for me. And if you're still at Chelsea, it doesn't matter. You're not going to play. They literally said to Sterling, even if you're at the club, you're not going to play. So facilitate a move, please. Effectively pushing him out of the club. I don't think City did it like that. They were a bit nicer about it. But Sterling, 29 years old, one of the most experienced English players in the league, not needed or wanted at Chelsea, willing to take a pay cut. And Arsenal, I've heard reports they were on this for days. Okay, this wasn't a last-minute panic, but the deal was. Okay, so here's what happened, and obviously it's just rumours, and no one will really know what happened, but I'm pretty sure this is what happened. Edu and the club knew Chelsea had no leverage if we left it late. Chelsea would have wanted a loan fee, probably a couple of million. They would have wanted his wages covered and maybe an obligation to buy. 3 things that we didn't end up doing. Because in the last few hours of the window, when Chelsea are panicking, thinking, oh my God, we could be paying 300 grand or whatever his wages were, 350 grand a week on a player that's not even playing. And then you get Arsenal coming in and they saved the day. And we offered to pay less than half his wages. Reportedly, he's on, I think it's 325 or 350 at Chelsea. We're paying 100,000 a week. So Chelsea are paying more than we are on his wages. They wanted a loan fee, but because we left it so late and we said we're not going to pay a loan fee, we're not paying one. We are not paying a penny to Chelsea for the Sterling deal whatsoever. And the third thing, they would have wanted some sort of obligation to buy. We're not having that in the contract either. Sterling will go back to Chelsea at the end of this season, no matter what happens. However, there are rumours there might be an option to buy in there, but no one seems to be really sure. I am absolutely certain that he will not be playing for Chelsea next season. And I have a feeling if he does well at Arsenal, we will make it permanent. And it's funny, all those years ago in my career modes, I used to sign Sterling for Arsenal. I've always loved Raheem Sterling, and I really think he could make an impact. And the fact that we have quite literally, like I said, pulled Chelsea's pants down with this. They would have wanted all his wages covered, a loan fee, let's say 5 million, just for the privilege of having him on loan, and then a guarantee that they would sell him. They've got none of that. They are paying more for Sterling to play for Arsenal than we are. It's just a thing of beauty. So really excited to see Sterling play, actually. Of course, we didn't register him or Neto in time for the Brighton game, but now it's the international break, which is great timing for someone like Sterling who's come in and will need to, effectively learn our system. So by the time the Tottenham game comes around, maybe Sterling will be fit. I do have a feeling Havertz will drop into midfield. Maybe we'll see Trossard at number 9, Sterling on the left, or maybe Martinelli through the middle, or maybe Sterling through the middle. Or if Jesus is fit, I'm sure he would start as well. Okay, let's talk about the outgoings, because that was our incomings, and I'll say the Sterling deal is a 9 out of 10, maybe an 8, because he might not be very good, but he should do well for us. But in terms of outgoings, this is where I think our transfer window wasn't good enough. It wasn't. It hasn't been a good enough window. Smith Rowe leaving for 32 mil, let's say, covers the Raya deal or covers the Merino deal completely. And it's straight profit, by the way. If you sell an academy player, it is straight profit. There is nothing coming away from that. In FFP, 32 million, straight profit. And Nketiah obviously left for Crystal Palace on deadline day, 30 million euros. Ramsdale to Southampton for 21.5 million euros. Of course, El Neni on a free, Okonkwo on a free, Fabio Vieira on a loan, Reece Nelson on a loan, Tavares on a loan, Lokonga on a loan, and Hein on a loan. Now, I believe Vieira's is a straight loan, so he will be coming back. Same with Nelson. However, Tavares is an obligation to buy, I'm fairly certain. Lokonga has an option to buy, but becomes obligation if he plays a certain amount of games. And Hein is a straight loan. He will come back as well. So some of those deals, fine. I understand it. But what I have a problem with is losing both Smith Rowe and Vieira, two players that can play in midfield and on the wing, gone and not replaced. Let's be honest. I know Sterling can do both wings, so it kind of alleviated that. But it felt a bit odd to me to let Vieira go. Reece Nelson, I'm comfortable with that because I don't think he makes enough of an impact unless we're playing against Bournemouth. But the real problem for me is Nketiah leaving and the fact that we haven't brought in a number 9. And I think what that means is we have to keep Jesus fit, because if he isn't fit, we only have Havertz as a fit striker. Havertz didn't even come in as a striker. Remember that this Havertz midfield experiment was meant to be the thing he did. He was brought in to be that number 8, that left central midfield, apparently anyway. And of course, that hasn't worked. It really hasn't. So we have 2 strikers at the club with Nketiah leaving. I don't know. And of course, with this amount of outgoings and the incomings, we're actually in the green. We haven't spent more than we've earned, which, if you think about it, going into a season where for a 3rd year in a row, we're going to be right up there fighting for the title, and we haven't necessarily spent to improve. Although, have we increased the quality? We've definitely lost quantity. We have less players. Although, with Nwaneri, Lewis Skelly, maybe they're seen as new signings almost. I think in general, guys, it has been a very neutral, average transfer window. And I expected at least a number 9/attacking player to come in this summer. We've seen Tone go for 40 mil to Saudi. Of course, we would have never matched the wages, and I guess that would have been the issue. But even so, Osimhen, frozen out of the Napoli squad now. Everything broke down with the move to Chelsea. Why were we involved in that? Osimhen will go in January now, and Napoli will have no leverage. So that's going to be an interesting one. But, Raya permanent, Calafiori, I think, is a really good deal and he will be a great player for us. Merino is, of course, a great added option in midfield. And then the Neto and Sterling loans, it's not, I wouldn't say it's underwhelming, but it might not be enough. And we're seeing Haaland bagging 2 hat-tricks in 2 games, and I'm just thinking it's already looking a bit rough, isn't it? You know, we've only played 3 games and we've drawn to Brighton because of a stupid red card, and it's going to be a long one, isn't it? But all of these players definitely add something to the squad. We haven't done something for the sake of it. We haven't panicked. Although the Sterling deal, I'm sure we would have never imagined Sterling joining Arsenal at the start of the window. But sometimes, you know, and I know Edu and Arteta have said it many times, if opportunities arise, you jump on them. And they weren't going to pass up on Sterling, who's worked with Arteta in the past. He's got experience. We've signed 3 players over the age of 25. Wait, no. Raya's over 25 as well, right? Or is he 27, 28? Can't quite remember, but yeah, it wasn't the window I expected, but ultimately I'm not unhappy, but I'm not happy either. Let's just hope they all hit the ground running. Hopefully Merino gets fit and stays fit. And, you know, I hope Calafiori can get more minutes in the next few weeks because he deserves to show what he's got. Mustn't forget, Timber coming back and being fit is almost like a new signing as well. I'm getting flashbacks of DRB. Thank you for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed my transfer window analysis. I think second place is achievable again. Can we get that first place? Can we win the title? Time will tell.